So let's have this conversation. James Kamau from the Kenya Treatment and Access Movement. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So now I'll ask you the question that we're asking our viewers. Do you think that, the entry of religious leaders will actually end this stalemate?
Thank you very much. I'm happy about the religious leaders coming in.
Right.
And it looks like because the president has agreed also to come in at this late time of the 88 days, there's hope at the end of the tunnel. Right. Let's not forget that when we last had problems in Kenya, we had mediators that came in and, and they helped. So I think this was a precise time. It's a good move. But rather late, but a good move.
All right. This is not the first time that the president has been involved. Remember the meeting that he had with the union officials in Mombasa, and really after a lot of hope in that meeting, there was still nothing. So how different do you think this is going to be?
I think with the religious leaders, right. They, more than anybody else, are seeing the plight of the patients and the people suffering. I mean, so they're actually they're actually representing the voice of the patients, because in this case, between the doctors and the government, the grass that's suffering is actually the Kenyan population, and they represent this Kenyan population. Remember, the religious leaders have an advantage of at least seeing their constituents or the people at least once a week.
Right, right.
So exactly. They do have access.
All right. Let's talk about the mediation talks. I mean, LSK was involved, and together with the KNCHR. I mean, those are two serious, groups that come together, but still they were not able to broker any deal. How complex is this situation? Because you have these two serious groups coming up together, they're solid, but still nothing.
I think what is actually coming out is that, one, the mediators and everybody else are coming on the table with what they want to put on the table and what they think the mediation should be. And we, especially from the civil society, our coalition on health has come up with the suggestions, and we asked both groups to get together and come up with a solution. But I believe the hard stance may be or may not be is ideally fundamental questions of law and the complications of our devolved system, especially in health, in the health matters. But I believe the whole thing will also work. And then, of course, the other problem is that the question of the salaries or the CBA that was signed, which did not come through, which had legal technicalities. Everybody on their own side is giving their views from different angles. And we as civil society are saying, listen, we need to come up with a solution because people are dying,
right.
So that we continue.
I mean, talking about coming up with a solution, do you think that doctors maybe should soften their stand? Because that is something that has come from the Ministry of Health so many times, that the government seems to be softening their stance, but the doctors are still very solid on what they want.
Personally, if you ask me, I would say yes, the doctors need to come down. They need to re-look at the offer the government gave, and they need to see from what side the government is coming from in terms of the extra financial burden that is going to be undertaken, because it is quite hectic. But we've got to realize that it is something that requires us to be able to solve it quickly, because health is a complete problem. These 88 days have been nothing but suffering. And if I may give an example, Bagathi District Hospital, which is the largest hospital after Kenyatta National Hospital, which is, Kenyatta National Hospital is actually national, and is empty. They don't have a single inpatient. Before they had over 400, and their maternity wing, which was one of the best, was full, and a bed would not stay empty for more than an hour because of the turnover. So where are these people going, and what are they doing?
Right. Why do you think that the government has taken really, so long, or even this stalemate at large, taken so long to come to an end or to be sought out? And I want to go back to the demands that the doctors have. One of them is not only about the salaries, but they're talking about the general healthcare here in the country, and that there are serious issues in the healthcare system. Why isn't the government seemingly looking seriously into this? Because we always hear about the salaries, they want more than what the private doctors are able to get. But, the bigger conversation really, which we don't hear from the government, is that, there are really serious issues about healthcare in hospitals. No equipment, doctors conducting surgeries in the most, difficult circumstances.
I think yes, the doctors are not exactly just looking for the salaries. Salaries is one of the things, but I think they took this time out when asking or demanding for their salary increment, that they also demand for better healthcare, environment. Because, for example, one of the things they're demanding for is they need more healthcare workers in public facilities, so that they can meet with the demand of the people who are going there. They are asking that so that they can have patients can have a shorter turnaround time, waiting time when they go for treatment, because the number or the amount of man hours Kenyans lose going to hospital, if we were to calculate that, that is a hell of a lot of money. So I think that is something that needs to be looked into. And then, of course, they need, it's important to have specialists in all the county hospitals. And to have these specialists in county hospitals, you need to facilitate them with the equipment and everything else, and the salaries. And that is why, you see, will the counties be able to, to keep them up, or pay them that standard of issues? And then, of course, the issue of medical supplies and equipment. We do have medical supplies and equipment in hospitals that were recently bought and given out, and they are not being used because they don't have the right personnel to use them at all. And then, of course, we also find there are issues of fundraising. It has become now a norm, fundraising for hospitals, every locally here, with whatever they are going on. And that is why I believe the NHIF should actually take up. The NHIF right now is correcting well over 50 billion Kenya shillings. And last year, 2016, they used only 7 billion, which includes sending the civil servants to India. So it's not that we have a shortage of the money, it's a question of putting the
money in the right place. All right, so I want us to link up with my colleague Rita Tinina, but we'll come back to the discussion here. And I want us to link up with her. She's at the Supreme Court. She has been following what has been happening. Rita, thank you so much for joining us. So there seems to be a lot of hope pegged on this conversation or these talks that will be held, hopefully today, between the president, the doctors and the religious leaders. So talk to us about the interreligious group that was represented today in court. What exactly, how are they able to convince the court to allow them, 2 more days?
Well, Betty, first of all, the third time that parties in this pay dispute for the doctors are being given more time. This time, what is different is that the religious leaders are coming on board to try and intervene in the matter. Today is when the mediators, the Law Society of Kenya and the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, were set to file their report. They have filed one before court, but asked the court to have it termed as an interim report, not a final report. And they said, through lawyer Mr. Obura, they said that they had done their best to try and resolve the matter, and that is when they welcome the Interreligious Council of Kenya. This is a council, an umbrella council of all the religious faiths in the country, the Anglican, the Catholic, the Hindu, the Muslim. And so they will be taking over the matter from now on. They told the court that they just need 2 days. They were saying that is today and tomorrow, and that they will be able to come up with a solution. Lawyers in this matter, those representing the doctors' union officials led by Senior Counsel James Orengo, then asked that they report back to court on Tuesday next week. But the Interreligious Council of Kenya, Adan Wachu, the SUPKEM chair, who is also a member of the Interreligious Council of Kenya, saying that there is nothing impossible. He gave an example before court saying that for them, as religious leaders, they believe a solution will be found. He told the court that the only thing that cannot be done, perhaps, is bringing back a dead body back to life. And so the three-judge bench led by Lady Justice Martha Koome, directing that the parties come back to court on Tuesday next week to file their report, also directing that the report, which has been filed by the Law Society of Kenya and the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, acting as mediators, be treated as an interim report. The Interreligious Council of Kenya already saying it has made some progress so far. It has held about 3 meetings separately with the doctors' union officials and the government side. This morning there was a breakfast meeting with the doctors' union officials. The other indication we had gotten earlier was that there was to be a meeting at State House this afternoon with the religious leaders and the union officials. With a new development, the court having accepted and directed that they take on the mediation process from here moving forward. We don't know whether that meeting at State House will still take place, or whether the doctors and the religious leaders will meet separately, try to agree on something before now reporting their progress to State House, or even before coming back to court next week. In court as well, lawyers asking, the lawyer for the Ministry of Health asking that the mediators state exactly what the sticking points are. Several issues the mediators have indicated in the last week that several issues have been agreed upon, but still there are issues pending to be addressed. But they have not mentioned what exactly those issues are in the report that they have filed before court as well. No indications of what has been solved or what is still pending. And so perhaps when the religious leaders take over this meeting, they will be picking up from where the Law Society of Kenya and the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights have left it. Although the lawyer for the Council of Governors, Eunice Lumalas, had asked the court that if the religious leaders were taking on the process from here on, that it should be treated as a fresh process. But the other parties then agreed that what has been agreed upon so far, the Interreligious Council can then pick on from there and try to come and have the doctors and the government reach a consensus. Betty.
It's now, Rita, this really it has been a process with a lot of back and forths. Now, we're waiting for this 2 days, hoping that something is going to happen. So what happens if on Tuesday, 7th of March, everybody goes back to court and there's really nothing that will have been achieved in regards to the conversation we're hoping will take place in the next 2 days?
Well, everyone is hoping that come Tuesday, a consensus will have been reached, and with the confidence that the Interreligious Council of Kenya displayed before court this morning, Adan Wachu saying that they have believe and they have confidence that they will have worked out something before next week. In fact, they were only asking for 2 days, meaning that so far the meetings they have held with the union officials and with the government, there were indications that they were about to reach a deal. That was the indication we also got yesterday. From early afternoon, there was word that the doctors and the government were about to reach a deal on this pay dispute. And this was after the Interreligious Council got involved just from the beginning of the week. So the Interreligious Council, very optimistic, very confident that they will be able to bring this matter to a close 88 days later since the doctors went on strike. They have maintained throughout that they want the collective bargaining agreement from 2013 implemented. They say they have ceded so much ground, but the sticking issue has been about the salaries and what has been agreed upon. Should it be paid in arrears? When should what they agree upon then be effected? Those are some of the issues that we are getting from our own sources that have been sticking out, even if the mediators will not divulge any information on what has been going on the negotiating table. Betty.
All right, thank you very much, Rita Tinina, reporting from the Supreme Court, just giving us the latest details of that 2-day allowance that was given by the court there to religious leaders to help out in the conversation. So let me just close this conversation I was having here in studio with James Kamau from the Treatment and Access Movement. Thank you so much for staying with us. So as we close, come Tuesday, what from where you sit from the civil society, what are you expecting will happen come the 7th of March?
We are hoping that there will be a solution to the whole issue, because it has taken that long. 2 more days, if we can, they can come with a lasting solution that will continue. It's extremely important, and we hope it is solved at that particular time, because we are now entering into a very difficult moment of period of campaign and election and everything else, and we would not want to have it interfered with in terms of solving some of those problems. So I believe it's important that we deal with it, extremely important, and for once, for it to be a lasting solution. And although there's been a lot of suffering, let's hope that the suffering is worthwhile in terms of what is going to come later.
Thank you so much, James Kamau. He's from the Kenya Treatment and Access Movement, talking to us really about the issues that have been going on for the last 88 days, talking about the doctors' strike. And remember, we have our Twitter poll ongoing, and we're asking you this morning if you think religious leaders will actually succeed in ending the doctors' strike. Do you think that religious leaders will succeed in ending the doctors' strike?